right, so today's deep dive is about using diamond dust to fight climate change. Yeah, you heard right. Diamonds. You sent this in, so you know it's going to be good. But before we get too lost in the sparkle, let's bring in our expert to, help us sort through it all.
It's definitely a conversation starter. When we talk about diamond dust and climate change, what we're really talking about is geoengineering.
Geoengineering, for those of us who haven't quite figured out how to hack the planet just yet.
Well, basically it means using these large-scale interventions intentionally to try and, counter some of the effects of climate change. It's like we're giving Earth a helping hand, but the hand in this situation is, well, a lot more sparkly.
Okay, you've got my attention. But diamonds, how do they fit into all of this?
Well, it all actually starts with volcanoes. Do you remember that massive eruption of Mount Pinatubo back in 1991? Millions of tons of sulfur dioxide went straight into the stratosphere.
Vaguely, yeah. It was huge news, wasn't it? What does that have to do with, cooling down the planet?
It's everything. See, those sulfur dioxide particles, they basically acted like tiny little mirrors reflecting sunlight away from the Earth. And for a few years after Pinatubo erupted, the planet actually cooled down by about 0.5 degrees Celsius.
So it's like someone gave Earth a giant temporary parasol.
Exactly, and that's where this whole concept of stratospheric aerosol injection comes in what if. And this is where it gets really interesting. What if we could introduce these reflective particles into the atmosphere on purpose, like create a man-made volcanic eruption to combat global warming?
And that's where the geoengineering comes in, right?
Yeah.
But wouldn't constantly trying to replicate volcanic eruptions have some pretty explosive consequences?
You're right to think that. Even though it's based on something natural, directly trying to copy that with sulfur dioxide comes with downsides. I mean, we could be talking about acid rain, damage to the ozone layer, even disruptions to global weather patterns.
Yeah, not really the side effects you're looking for when you're trying to heal the planet. So sulfur dioxide is out. How do we get from volcanoes to diamonds?
Well, scientists are a pretty determined bunch, right? Always looking for the next better solution. That's where Sandro Vattioni and his team over at ETH Zurich come into the picture. They were looking at other materials that could do that same sunlight reflecting trick, but without, the nasty side effects. And they found a very specific, and let's be honest, very intriguing possibility.
This is where the diamonds finally make their grand entrance, right?
You got it. But before we get too distracted by all the sparkle, it's important to understand why diamonds, of all things, became the main focus. Vattioni's team, they weren't just, picking things out of a hat. They had very specific criteria for any material that was going to work for this.
Okay, so diamonds. What is it about that? They seem like, I don't know, the overachievers of reflecting things. Is that it?
Well, think about it. What makes diamonds so, captivating? That sparkle. It all comes down to their structure. Diamonds can reflect light ridiculously well, way better than most other materials.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But wouldn't we need, a crazy amount of diamonds to actually do anything to the planet's temperature? And wouldn't they just, fall down?
You're totally on the right track there. It's all about how long they last. Vattioni's team, they knew they needed something that wasn't just going to disappear after a couple days, get rained out. They needed a material that could stay up there in the atmosphere for as long as possible. And that's where diamonds, get this, especially tiny diamonds, really come in. We're talking nano diamonds, almost like a fine dust.
Nano diamonds?
Yes.
All right. Not launching a huge Tiffany store into space. Got it. But diamonds are expensive. What about the cost of all this? And how do we even get all that diamond dust up into the atmosphere anyway, like some kind of diamond-powered space cannon?
All good questions. First, let's talk about the cost. So Vattioni's research, right, they estimated we'd need something like 5 million tons of diamond dust each year to really make a difference in cooling things down.
5 million tons. I knew this wasn't going to be cheap, but wow, that's a lot of diamonds. We're talking about the kind of money that makes $1 billion look like spare change, right?
You're not wrong. Some estimates put the cost at something like $200 trillion by the year 2100, that is. And remember, that's trillion with a T.
Yeah, that's not something you can just, slip past anyone. And for our listeners out there, that's more than twice the entire global GDP. It kind of makes you wonder, are diamonds really everyone's best friend when it comes to, actually saving the planet?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's important to remember, even if we did all of this, it's not like we'd see changes instantly. This is about change over a long period of time.
Thinking long-term is important, but I gotta say, that price tag, it kind of makes even the biggest plans to fight climate change look like a bargain. So what else is out there? Anything else even close to being effective and affordable for reflecting sunlight back into space? Or are our choices a planet covered in diamonds or, well, dealing with not doing anything at all? So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, it seems like. I mean, on the one hand, you've got diamond dust, which sounds like something straight out of, a futuristic movie, but it comes with a price tag that's out of this world. And then there's the sulfur dioxide thing, familiar, but with the potential for, like, a whole bunch of other problems. What are you thinking with all of this?
You're really getting to the heart of it here. It's a tough one, for sure. Remember when we talked about how much each of these things might cost? Well, there are scientists out there who say using sulfur dioxide would be something like, get this, 2,400 times cheaper than the whole diamond dust thing.
2,400 times. For that much money, you could probably build, like, I don't know, a space elevator covered in diamonds. But those downsides with the sulfur dioxide, the acid rain, messing up the ozone, even messing with the jet stream, those aren't small things to risk.
It's one of those situations where, there's no easy way out. And it really shows just how tough it is to deal with climate change. Everything is a trade-off, right? You got to find some kind of balance. It's not as easy as just picking the shiniest, most exciting option. You got to look at what we might gain, but also what we could lose for the environment and for our wallets.
This is the part that really gets me thinking. It's almost like we're picking between two doors, and you have no idea what's behind either one. Do you go with the risky one that could be amazing, or do you play it safe, even if it might not be as good?
And that's exactly what scientists and the people making decisions about all this are trying to figure out. There's no one answer everyone agrees on, and that's why it's so important to keep doing research and keep talking about these big ideas. Because one thing's for sure, whatever we decide to do about climate change today, it's going to affect things for generations to come.
It's a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here talking about potentially changing the whole planet with diamonds. It sounds like something right out of a science fiction book.
It really does, doesn't it? But that's what's so cool about science sometimes. The real world is even wilder than anything you can make up. And while using diamond dust to fight climate change might seem like something out of Star Trek, it shows you how creative and just plain out of the box people are being to tackle this problem.
And it really makes you wonder, what else is out there? What other impossible ideas are just waiting for someone to discover them? Maybe next time we'll be talking about, I don't know, using black holes or something. But for now, we want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? Diamond dust to fight climate change? Is it a stroke of genius? Or just a really expensive way to ignore the real problems? Head over to our website or find us on social media and let us know. And keep those interesting articles coming our way. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into, well, whatever fascinating thing we uncover next. Until then, stay curious out there.